What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hawk Talk on Melrose. We just cannot go a week, Tyler, without doing an episode, or I can't anyway, because I recorded one on Wednesday when we pretty much told everyone we're going to take like a week and a half off. And here we are. It's Sunday. What is it? October 15th, October 16th. And we just can't help ourselves. We consumed a lot of football yesterday. And I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of football. And we got to talk about it. So here we are. What's going on, Tyler? How's your Sunday going?
Good. Going good so far. So yeah, views are probably gonna be down this week just because everyone was expecting no episodes to come out. So no, I'm kidding. But no, it's just there's too much good football not to talk about it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we thought, hell, we have nothing better to do on a Sunday. What is it, Sunday at 10:30 in the morning right now? So thought we'd hop on the pod a little bit and talk some college football.
Yep, right before the NFL starts. So we're not going to really talk much Iowa today. We'll save that for Wednesday, because we're not going to really have any game to really resort to for Iowa. Well, I mean, there's really not much to talk about.
Yeah.
Against Ohio State.
Yeah.
But we obviously didn't play this last week, so there's really not much to talk about on Wednesday. So we're going to save the Brian Ferentz presser because I have my thoughts. I'm sure you have your thoughts on that. We'll save for that. We'll save until then. But strictly today, we're going to just talk some college football and then our Big Ten power rankings to end the show. So let's begin. Let's start with Alabama, Tennessee, man. What a freaking game that was. And I'm so jealous of my brother. He got to go to it. Obviously, being in Nashville, he's only 3 hours away from Knoxville. He got to go for free. Man, I texted him. I'm like, I know you don't get to go to a lot of Iowa games anymore, but what I would take to be there and to witness that was just a hell of a freaking game. And I know I don't like the SEC, but it's a different league. It is a different league. And even Colby said that this morning being at the game. He's like, it's just, I mean, you Iowa, Purdue, Illinois. I mean, it's a different league. They are on another level. And watching it from home, it's so much fun to watch. And now it's just a hell of a game.
Yeah, by far, I think the game of the year so far, if you take in how the game played out, combined with just the atmosphere. I mean, Knoxville, Tennessee is a great like college football town.
Oh, yeah, especially when they're good.
Especially when they're good. They haven't been good in a while. And so it's like now that you have a team that's number 6 in the country that just beats Alabama for the first time in 15, 16 years.
That's 2006.
Knoxville, according to Twitter, was burned down last night. So I can't imagine. Yeah, and I'm just so jealous of your brother. That's so crazy.
I mean, and you just knew like when Tennessee got up like 28, 28-10, you knew Alabama was going to like come back. Now, I didn't know it was going to be like a back and forth, but you knew they would come back and at least keep it close. And man, if you take away that pass interference call at the end, Alabama probably wins by 2 touchdowns. And so that was kind of a bang bang play. Now, I took Tennessee +9, so I was happy they called that because I knew when Alabama intercepted that and they got to like that 30-yard line or whatever, it's like, they're probably going to score here, make it 2 touchdowns, 2 minutes left, maybe Tennessee backdoor covers, but so I was
that pretty much secured it for you.
I was pretty happy about that because when they scored there, it's like, well, I won this bet because even if it goes into overtime, no team's going to win by more than 9 points. So I was pretty pumped about that, and I wish it did go into overtime, but the ending was still crazy. Alabama misses a field goal like normal. I mean, it's so weird to me how Alabama, for how good of a program they are, they cannot just consistently have a good kicker. They've had some decent kickers, but like consistently, and because you already knew that he was going to miss that, like just going in, you knew he was going to miss that.
You did.
And then Tennessee, which that should have been a miss too. I mean, that was like a knuckleball type of like that.
I don't know how that went in. I first of all, they show the replay and like, what's his name? Gary Daniels is like, I thought the one guy from Alabama was going to block it. If you look at it, it went like right over his hands.
Like literally.
And I thought he like almost like tipped it or something because I'm like, God, why is the ball like spinning that weird? But hell, it went in, and oh my God, the scene. I know. Like you said, that's what makes college football. Like, and we always talk about how now overall we're more of like probably fans of the NFL just due to the fact that a lot of the games are close and they're really good games. But like a scene like that is like what I picture college football like at its peak. Like I love that.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I'm not a big SEC guy, but if you're a fan of football, that game, I mean, you're watching that game and you're loving every minute.
Yeah.
Of that, so
I would say for me, yeah, like NFL is definitely, I don't know, maybe surpass college. Mainly for me, it's just because like it's always the same teams at the end of the year. But when you're talking just like in the moment, like last night, I'm going to pick college football just because you can't. I mean, the marching band, the passion, the student section. I mean, it's just something that you're not going to get in the NFL.
Yeah,
but yeah, in the NFL, at least like there's a lot more parity. You know, you got the Bengals last year who, you know, they make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, every year it's just different. It's not always the same two teams every single year. And college football, it's pretty much the same two teams. Do you think there's a chance? Now, this is obviously if, you know, Tennessee continues, 3 SEC teams in the college football playoff, possibly. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like it could happen this year.
I think Joe Klatt had he tweeted out something. He's like, think about this, like Alabama wins the SEC championship. Georgia is the runner-up or loses. So they have one loss. And then Tennessee
only has one to Georgia.
Like, yeah, what do you do? I mean, this is where an expanded playoff. I mean, and again, I know people have their opinions about it, but you don't have that conversation. But no, I know it's crazy.
To be completely honest with you, I will add, once again, going back to like, I don't really like the SEC. I would take a Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State playoff.
100%.
And pair up a rematch of, and okay, so like whatever the conference championship game is. So if it's Georgia, Alabama, then I want to see Georgia, or I want to see Tennessee, Alabama in the playoffs. Or if it's like Tennessee, Alabama, then I want to see Georgia. Like I don't want to see the like back to back, you know, but like give me Tennessee, Alabama rematch, and then like a Georgia, Ohio State game. Like that would be a great playoffs. That I would actually love. But yeah, I mean, like it's just crazy. Everyone's it's kind of funny just seeing, you know, everyone's kind of counting out. Like Alabama like almost won that game last night. I mean, they only lost by 3 despite having like 20 penalties.
I
don't even know.
That insane amount.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I can look it up
they obviously lost and on the road. I mean, so Alabama's still going to be there at the end of the year. I mean, they're still going to be a really good
17 penalties.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, last week too. I mean, they almost lost to Texas A&M, but backup quarterback. They almost lost to Texas. I get that, but it's Alabama, and like they're Nick Saban. Like they're not going to lose another game up until the conference championship game.
Right.
So,
I mean, if they win the SEC, it's going to be hard to count them out again.
Exactly.
So,
all right, let's go to some other games. We'll go a little closer to home. Penn State, Michigan. I thought going into this game that this was going to be a pretty good game. I mean, it was a 7-point. I actually took Penn State. Looking back on it, I kind of regret it, but I took them plus 7.5. I just thought that I didn't think Penn State was going to win, but I just thought it was going to be a close game. And going into like the third quarter, it was pretty close. It was 14 to 13 or something, like 14 to 12 at one point. And then, it's just Penn State,
Penn State couldn't stop the run then.
No. And I was surprised by that. And that's kind of the reason why I took Penn State, because I thought their defense would be able to at least, for the most part, stop Michigan. Not saying that they were going to but I just thought, Penn State would score a few times, which they did in the first half. I mean, they found ways to score, and then, second half, just a complete disaster. But I mean, pretty much what that game told me is, Michigan's really good, and they're not going to lose until they play Ohio State. And I don't think they'll beat Ohio State this year, but like they're going to be undefeated going to that game. And so is Ohio State. So, and that game, like I said, whoever wins that game will go on probably play in the playoffs.
Yep. 100%. I thought the same thing. I thought it was going to be a really close game because Penn State has, up until that point, I think I saw a top 10 rush defense. And obviously that's strength on strength right there. But they couldn't contain the run game from Michigan. And because both quarterbacks honestly didn't do jack shit through the air.
No, I mean,
they both didn't have a passing touchdown. I don't think they both had a pick. both threw for low 100-yard games. And it, like I said, Penn State couldn't stop the run, and they blew the game open in the second half. Penn State's offense, they can't run the ball at all. And obviously now with Sean Clifford, it seems like they couldn't do much either in the air. And I just think, like you said, Michigan's ahead, a solid head and shoulders above Penn State. I think at this point, we didn't know until we saw that, but I think that game kind of proved it.
And that's what, like with Penn State, because I thought going into, like, they couldn't run the football yesterday, but like, God, going into that game though, they were actually running the football pretty good this year. Granted, they haven't really played anyone, and man, they just could not do anything yesterday. No. This is kind of I knew I was probably going to talk about Iowa at some point. I will say this though, it annoys me watching Michigan yesterday put up 41 points against a decent Penn State defense, seeing Illinois put up 26 points against a decent Minnesota defense, and the fact that Michigan game, we really only gave up 20 points. They had that 7 garbage points at the end. And then we only gave up 9 points to Illinois. Like, it just frustrates me because it's like, God, if we just had a decent offense, we could probably be 6-0 right now. We probably beat Michigan if we had a decent offense that could actually put up 20-ish points. And we for surely beat Illinois. And we for surely beat Iowa State with average offense.
We are no worse than 5-1, Collin, and I think that Michigan game is really it's a fourth quarter game for sure.
It was. Hell, it was almost a fourth quarter game with how bad our offense was. We scored there to make it 20-14. It's a fourth quarter game, but
we don't get down 20-0. We don't go 20-0 going into the fourth quarter. So I agree with you. I think if we had, it's hard not to compare Iowa when you see a lot of these games and the results of them, and you're like, oh, if we were just average. And I agree.
I think yesterday really showed like how good our defense actually is. I was starting to have a little bit of some doubts just because we were, there was just times where we were just giving up, just chunk yardage but overall collectively, I mean, it shows how good our defense is. Like we are, so it frustrates me. Let's talk a little bit of the Illinois-Minnesota game. That's the next game I had on the list. Minnesota, God dang, I remember texting you after the Michigan State game. They blew out Michigan State. I was like, okay, is Michigan State this bad or is Minnesota this good? And we said like probably a little bit of both. And ever since then, they lose against Purdue a couple weeks ago, which granted they didn't have Ibrahim. So I mean that's tough, but they still lose at home. Then they have a bye week to prepare for Illinois, and they pretty much get boat raced. I mean, they lose 26-14. I watched that game because that was another game I had a bet. That was one of my only losses. I lost that Minnesota. So I watched that game pretty much the full game, and Minnesota just couldn't really do anything. And the only reason why they got the 14 points is because 7 out of their 14 points came from an almost kick return that got them to like the 5-yard line. And then they obviously scored. Yeah. You take that away, they really only put up 7 points this game. And Illinois, I don't know what they ended up finishing because I kind of stopped watching towards the very end, but there was a moment where they were 0 for 2 in the red zone. So like they might have even put up more than 26 points if, they capitalized in the first half. So Illinois, man, team to beat in the Big Ten. Who would have ever thought that? I knew Bielema was going to turn this program around. I just didn't think it was going to be this quick. I didn't think that they were going to, I thought it was going to be a few years, but very impressive to go on the road at Wisconsin, beat them, beat Iowa, a team that you haven't beat for a long ass time, and then beat a Minnesota team that, maybe now we can say maybe they're just not that good, but they're still not a bad team. And you, like I said, you beat them pretty handily. So Illinois team to beat in Big Ten.
Well, yeah, no, and I get it. Like I don't even know if like he's definitely turned it around. Don't get me wrong. It's just I think this is a result of a year where the Big Ten Big Ten West is so wide open because it's just not very good. Yeah. And I just think anybody can beat anybody, and Illinois is riding high right now. Like you said, they're kind of like Iowa in a sense, playing really good like last year, playing really good defense, doing just enough on offense, I think, to kind of get them these wins. And because like again, I'm looking at the stats. I mean, Chase Brown had 180 yards, but it was on 41 carries. Like that's
they ran the ball a shit ton. Even the commentators said at one point they're like, yeah, they're kind of running him too much, but it works,
No,
I guess.
yeah, until you stop it. I mean, that's the thing. So I think they're like you said, they're beating who they're supposed to beat. They're playing really good defense, and yeah, they're. I agree. It's kind of a shock, though. I mean, you wouldn't have thought Illinois would be the team to beat right now, but I think right now. I mean, I know we'll talk about the Big Ten rankings. I think Illinois, Purdue, obviously, probably the two teams right now that
In the Big Ten West, yeah,
the Big Ten West that I
and
would say are the teams to beat. So,
yep. Branching off a little bit on Minnesota front too. I know I seen on Twitter a lot of people are calling for like a lot of people are like a lot of Minnesota fans on PJ Fleck because like they're like saying like this is you're 6 years in and you're still not beating these teams that you probably should beat. And I completely agree. Like it's so weird to me like how Minnesota seems like every year they always just they're not a bad team, but they just always find ways to just really fuck up. And when they're at their highest high, they just come crashing down. And I mean, as a Minnesota fan, I would be very annoyed by that because it's like, yeah, you just beat Michigan State and granted Michigan State's not good, but you kill them and then you lose 2 in a row. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no, you can't do that. When you have a pretty good defense, a decent quarterback, pretty good offensive line,
your
really good running back.
Yeah.
I
No,
do
I
think
agree.
though,
Your wide receivers back. I mean,
is he back? I thought
maybe not. Maybe no, he's injured.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say maybe
again.
that's losing him for the season might have really. I mean, I said that I remember seeing that. I was like, ooh, that might. But I was like, yeah, they'll be fine. And I think maybe that's kind of a big loss on that.
Well, I mean, they're terrible throwing the ball right now, so that's probably a huge reason.
So,
but yeah, I know. I agree. You're 6 years in. This is a year where, I mean, my God, if there wasn't a year to do it, it's this year. And you were riding high, and like you said, it seems like every time they do that,
take crashing down.
Years ago when they were coming into Kinnick, riding high, and obviously we beat them. So it is weird.
2019
how they're not getting it done. But I just still think PJ Fleck's a good coach, but. Yeah, I know I would be very, very pissed off if I was a Minnesota fan. This is by far your year to do it. So,
and then the other team to beat in the Big Ten, Purdue. I watched a decent amount of that game, not a whole lot last night. Nebraska, Purdue. I was pretty impressed with Nebraska. I mean, hell, what has happened for Nebraska this year with the whole Frost thing? And I know Indiana Rutgers are not good, but you win those 2 games and then you go at Purdue and you put up a fight and you bring it to the fourth quarter and they almost won that game. But yeah, we're not beating Purdue. I mean, that's because again, it's like a track meet and you got to keep up with them. And I get our defense is good, but like, they're going to put up points against us. And I just don't think our offense is going to be able to outpace them. And yeah, I mean, Charlie Jones now has 9 touchdowns. 2 more than our entire offense has had this year in points. Their defense obviously isn't great, but once again, like you said, like they're going to put up
they're going to put up 20 points
because of their offense.
Or you're not gonna. So,
but
100% agree.
I just think I think it was more like last night. I was just more impressed with. I hate saying this, but I think I was just more impressed with just Nebraska. I mean, I just think like the way they have just. I mean, they were at the lowest of the low when they lost Frost. They got their butts kicked in against Oklahoma, a team that's not very good. And then, you win 2 games on the, granted, they weren't good Big Ten teams, but you won those 2 games and then you go on the road and you put up a fight. Like as a Nebraska fan, I can't be mad about what I'm seeing. Like season was pretty much ruined anyways. And you're at least competing, something that you didn't really see under Frost. But I think right now, Purdue, Illinois play in a couple weeks. Who do you think would win that game? That's going to be a good game. I mean, should be anyway.
I think it'll be a really good game. If Illinois' defense is legit as, the numbers say they are and how they're playing right now, I think that bodes well for them if they can keep it a low-scoring game. Just because I believe Purdue's offense is overall better than Illinois' offense. I mean, if you stop Illinois' run game and you force, what's his name, to throw the ball, DeVito to throw the ball, I think you have a really good chance of winning that game.
Yeah. I'm going to look at
AKA how Iowa played that game. Iowa holds them to 9 points. They don't do really anything on offense. There's no reason that Illinois couldn't win that game. Yeah, I think it depends maybe where it's at.
At Illinois.
at Illinois, I'd give Illinois the edge right now. I really would. I think they're playing amazing defense, and I think, you know, I think it's so wide open that, obviously either team could win that game. But if you're telling me Illinois plays pretty solid defense, holds them to 17, 20 points, I think they have a really good shot of winning that game.
Purdue has a pretty tough 3-game stretch, and I know these two teams aren't good right now, but at Wisconsin, Iowa, and then Purdue, or then at Illinois. That's a pretty tough 3-game stretch. I was looking at Illinois. They have Nebraska still, or their next game is Nebraska. They really got their tough games kind of behind them, and then they get Purdue at home. Now they play at Michigan the week before the last game. So Michigan, you already know their eyes are gonna be on the prize with the Ohio State game. And so could Illinois somehow go into the big house the week before, especially if they're riding pretty, they're still a pretty good team, injuries aside or whatever. That might be a really good game, like a surprisingly good game. You don't really think you're probably going, don't really think much, but they could make that a game. With their defense, anything can happen. Ohio State or Michigan thinking Ohio State game, kind of a trap game. That might be a sneaky good game.
100%. Probably another Fox big noon kickoff game.
Probably
another Michigan game week after another. So I early kick. I don't know. I give Illinois a shot. I think if you could stop Michigan, you say that for either team. Stop either team's run game and really put it on the shoulders of the quarterbacks. You give yourself a good shot to do it. It's easier said than done because Michigan and Michigan's able to run the ball effectively against anyone right now. So I think
it's, unless both teams shit the bed, I think it's going to be Illinois or Purdue in the Big Ten championship game. Just because I just don't see. Wisconsin's pretty much done. Northwestern's done. Obviously, Nebraska's done. They still have to play Michigan, Minnesota. Now they've lost 2 games. It's just it's going to be tough for any of those two teams. And with Iowa's offensive woes, they're not going to do anything. So, and then what other game was? Oh, Michigan State last night. I'm surprised that they beat Wisconsin. I didn't think they were going to. So I don't know. With Wisconsin, I've still given them props though for making a coaching change. They're at least competing, right? This is the same team that lost to Washington State at home, same team that got their butts kicked against Ohio State, same team that got their butts kicked against Illinois. Make a coaching change, give them props. They kill Northwestern, and then I know Michigan State's not good, but you're on the road and you go into 2 overtimes with Michigan State. So, I don't know. Not really much to talk about with that game. It was just both teams aren't very good, but I was just very surprised that Michigan State ended up winning that game. I just did not think they were gonna. I don't know. I did not think they were gonna win that game.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think what Wisconsin's kind of in that situation where it's it's pretty much season's pretty much done. They go into obviously a pretty tough environment. It's just, it is what it is. You knew that game was probably going to be close. I didn't think Michigan State was going to win that game either, but
it's
after the way they've been playing.
Exactly. Well,
maybe that gives hope to Iowa against Wisconsin, right?
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, Wisconsin started off the game really good too. They scored right away, and then it just went downhill from there. And then the last game I want to talk about, Big 12, Iowa State, Texas. This was my lock of the week. I just thought Iowa State was close with their defense, plus 15. Kind of a trap game for Texas. The
line I thought was insane.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they always play Texas close.
They do.
They always do. They do every year.
Yeah. 11 a.m. game. 11 a.m. game. Trap game for Texas. They killed Oklahoma last week. They have to play Oklahoma State next week on the road. You just knew that. And then with Iowa State's defense, I know Iowa State's offense has been struggling, but with their defense, they're going to keep it close.
Yeah.
And man, Iowa State, they get up 7-0. They get to the 5-yard line, and they score there, make it 14-0. Man, I don't know. And then, even at the end, they had their chances. A wide open Xavier Hutchinson needs to catch that. I know you can blame the refs, this and that, but that happened all after that catch. So he catches that. None of that stuff matters.
Nullified, yeah.
Yep. So I get that it was a bullshit. That should have probably been targeting. Was that a fumble? Blah, blah, blah. But none of that even matters if Xavier Hutchinson catches a pass that I would catch. That's it's
inexcusable.
It's right there in your hands. And It's so weird with Xavier because this isn't the first time this has happened. He catches really good balls and then he'll have this like drop where it's like, what? Like, how do you drop that? And the thing of it is like, you can maybe make the case too, like kind of a bad throw because like if he hits him in stride, he catches that and walks in. Like he kind of had to like stop a little bit and like kind of come back to the ball. Man, it was just bad. It's just bad execution. I would say just finding ways to lose. That's just the story of their program. But now they fall to 0-4 in conference play. It's just crazy. They're 3-4 now. They still have to play.
Not getting any easier.
No, at TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, West Virginia. I mean, like, I don't think this. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yesterday they showed me something at least, like keeping it close, but I just don't know if they'll make it to a bowl game this year. I just don't see that many more wins. I mean, maybe get to 6-6.
And that's not even a knock on Iowa State.
No, it's not. It's not
so good. The league is that good.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Real quick, that kind of leads me into just one more game, the Oklahoma State TCU game.
Oh, that was a hell of a game too. Oklahoma State was up by so much. I just can't believe
TCU in the second half, I know, played really good football and won a game they probably shouldn't have won in overtime. And shout out Max Duggan again.
Yeah, should be on Iowa.
What could have been?
No, that would be backyard football though, Tyler. What's the upside of getting Max? What's the upside of getting him?
You just combine two quotes that
we'll talk about. We'll talk
about
on Wednesday. Yeah. All right, let's get to Big Ten standings quick, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So this was actually really tough for me. You can agree or disagree with me.
I'll just chime in on you. Yeah. I know you kind of put this together. So
you have the 1 and 2, which is very easy. Ohio State, Michigan, and then it really drops off.
Right.
So I have Ohio State at number 1, Michigan number 2, which you probably agree with that. And at number 3, now this is right now. Okay, so this is kind of what I've seen the last couple of weeks. Whatever. I'm putting Illinois at number 3. I don't think they kind of are. I think if they played some of these other teams, would they win? But like for right now, how can you not? I mean, put them at number 3. Agree with that?
I have
would you still put Penn State?
No arguments against it.
Yep.
No. I based on what you've done. I take into account what you've done, and I'm not going to discredit Illinois for beating who they're supposed to beat or beating the teams they shouldn't have beat. So I have no complaints there.
They should be 6-0. They should not.
They should.
Indiana.
No, that's what I mean. Bad. That's the one game where I'm like, God, but it's early on. It's the first game this season. They've grown up a lot since then. I think they're a different team.
Yep. 4. Then I have Purdue for right now. I just
Purdue.
You gotta give them. I mean, what I thought was impressive about Purdue is going on the road at Minnesota and then going on the road at Maryland, 2 back-to-back road games, and they beat them both. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. So I gotta give them the edge there. And then Penn State, you still gotta give Penn State. I mean, they're still, just because they lose yesterday, they're still a decent team. Penn State
the Penn State Purdue. I mean, for mine, I think you could flip flop them. I don't have a problem with it though.
Yeah,
I really am not gonna have a problem with your list. I think going forward.
This is where it gets really tough. I did not know where to put some of these teams. Number 6, Maryland. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
but now did you see
the
injury?
Yep.
But
now, this will change. But for right now,
I think I don't.
Maryland.
It's right now. You're it's apples. I mean, you can't. You're splitting hairs here. So
number 7, I have Iowa. And I'm mainly just basing this off the defense. I mean, we're gonna be besides Ohio State, we're gonna be in a lot of games. Like, just because our offense sucks ass doesn't mean the team itself sucks ass. Like,
correct.
So I'm gonna put Iowa there. I'm gonna put Minnesota at 8. Now you could maybe flip flop Minnesota, Iowa, but like once again, just I don't know the last 2 Minnesota, but I guess at the end of the day, like we'd be the same way. We would lose to Purdue, lose to Illinois, right? But I don't know. I just right now I'm just not seeing I'm not liking what I'm seeing with Minnesota. I mean, they should have won at least one of those 2 games.
The question I ask myself is, do I see Iowa beating Minnesota right now? I think we could. It's
really tough.
It gives me pause. So I would maybe have Minnesota ahead of
Iowa. That's what's tough. I mean, I can see where you put Minnesota.
Again,
maybe
you're splitting hairs because right now, if you're talking week to week basis, yes, Minnesota is trending downward. So I get that.
Number 9, Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're
in
3-4,
every game,
but they're playing, they're competing hard. Now, 5 weeks ago, I'd put Nebraska probably at 13 or 14 because they were really sucking, but their defense is playing better. Offense is improving. Like I
still think the offense, there's nothing wrong with the offense.
No.
It's their defense. They're giving up way too many points. And I mean, Casey Thompson's still playing really good. So yeah.
Number 10, and I know it's like, why would you put them ahead when they literally just lost to them? But I'm going to put Wisconsin slightly above Michigan State. I'm going to put Wisconsin at 10, 11, Michigan State. Michigan State, yes, they won last night, but man, you just look at their body of work and they're not a good football team. They just, won last night. I mean, it is what it is. They play 10 times out of 10.
I was going to say
Wisconsin wins
7,
majority of the games. So 10 Wisconsin, 11 Michigan State, number 12 Indiana, 13 Rutgers, and then 14 Northwestern. I mean, bottom 3, that's easy. I mean, you could maybe flip-flop, maybe Rutgers, Northwestern, but I would give slightly the edge to Rutgers just because if they played each other, Rutgers would probably beat Northwestern. Northwestern's not a good football team. Now, they'll keep it close against us because that's just the way we are, but overall, they're not a good football team. So I think we agreed a little bit. I think there's maybe a few that you might change, but for the most part, it's tough. I mean, you get outside of Ohio State, Michigan, and then the bottom 3 or 4, the middle, it's just like, I don't know where to put these games. Now, Maryland, I agree, will go down more here.
I think they're gonna, I think he got carted off with a leg injury, so it's like, I don't know if it's how serious it is. I didn't read much about it. I'm sure he's probably done.
Yeah, and how funny for how bad we are to be like, and I'm not just, to be like number 7.
No, I agree.
And I would say majority of people, even people that are not Iowa fans, would probably put Iowa 7 or 8. Just kind of shows like how kind of bad the Big Ten is. Yeah. And it kind of shows like if we had a good offense, we would be probably at number 3.
I know.
So
I know it's the league is, the league top to bottom is always, not super deep, but especially this year, it's like, and the side that we're in, it's like, I know it's frustrating.
It is very frustrating
that our offense is what it is right now. But
yeah,
I know that it shows how good our defense and special teams still are. I mean, really to be 3-3 and also like what you just said, kind of in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten is right now, still very impressive, I think. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that will do it for this episode. I'm glad we got a short one in here. But we'll be back on Wednesday for Thursday. We'll talk Brian Ferentz presser. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll just kind of go over the game. Once again, there's not really much to talk about other than Ohio State's really fucking good, and they're probably going to win by 5 or 6 touchdowns. But we'll talk a little bit about that game. And then, that'll be the
do some wager winners, maybe some games to look forward to as well. Maybe throw some of that in there again. I kind of like talking a little now that we have the opportunity, maybe not to talk so much Iowa. If there isn't a whole lot to talk about, we could talk about some other games.
Well, and the thing is as we get closer to the end of the season, there's just a lot more drama, especially when they reveal.
Sure.
I think one of these weeks they'll be starting up the college football playoff rankings. Probably, I would say, the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, and then obviously, like go listen to last week's pod. You have Iowa basketball coming up here in November. So
their first
there'll be a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, for sure.
At the Hawks on Melrose podcast here. So
hell yeah, Hawk Talk on Melrose, baby. All right, well, thank you guys all for listening. We'll be back in a couple of days, and go Hawks.